Hey guys, welcome back to the Lost Artistry Lash channel. For those of you who haven't had a chance to meet me yet, my name's Caitlin, and today I am doing a 4-week lash fill on my client 𝑻𝒊𝒎𝒆. Retention has been amazing, but we always get questions from you guys about how to fill super spiky sets like this. So that's what this one is all about. I'm extra excited about today because two things. One, I'm using our brand new matte collection. This is a brand new line to us here at Lost Artistry Lash, and it's made with an updated fiber. So for those of you who have used our standard volume before, it's a modified, enhanced version of the standard volume. It's extra soft, extra dark, and extra easy to work with. Fans like butter, no matter what type of volume lash fans you're creating. Also, it has this really cool tray, so no more having to set your lashes up on a tile if you don't want. You can lash directly from the lash tray that your lashes come in, which is nice because you can save some time on setup. And then secondly, another really exciting thing is that I'm actually filling her with a mapping that I learned from Lynn's Lash Design on Instagram. And really exciting news for each and every one of you guys is that Lynn is actually coming to the Lost Artistry Lash headquarters April 8th. And you can join our training. So we're coming together to offer a really amazing webinar that you can join from anywhere in the world. Details about that webinar will be below, but just for your reference, in that webinar, we're gonna cover Lynn's really highly requested wispy cat eye designs and mapping. She's gonna be doing a live demo on a model, and we're also gonna be covering bottom lash extensions. All of this for just $40 USD. So it's gonna be 2+ hours of education live so that right there on the spot during our webinar, you can ask your lash questions to myself and Lynn. Really hope to meet all of you guys there, and I'm really excited to hear what you think of our new matte collection. All right, let's do this fill. Okay guys, so like I said before, we're at a 4-week fill, so 𝑻𝒊𝒎𝒆, I'll get you to look in the camera here. And we can see that although there's still lots of spikes, they're definitely a little bit unbalanced. So my plan of attack is to, well, A, roll with the shaping that we already have, where my longest length is actually going to be at the arch of the brow. And we're gonna go down in length to about, my shortest length, I think I'm only gonna do a 9mm. I don't wanna go any shorter because I'm a bit nervous that if we go too short on the inner corner that the lashes will kind of get hidden under the eyelid in here. What I'm gonna do now after I cleanse her, because pre-service prep is so important, is I'm going to go through and remove any spikes that look grown out, and then I'm gonna balance my spikes first before I fill in the rest of the base with density. Okay, so cleansing time. I'm choosing our Lost Artistry Foam Cleanser. The reason why is because 𝑻𝒊𝒎𝒆 has some makeup on. She came directly from work, so I need a foam cleanser that's easy to remove, but also will give me a nice deep cleanse because I need to remove that makeup as well. And Scentsy Bath, even though it's such a great product, it's not heavy enough to remove all the makeup that I want. So that's why I'm choosing foam cleanser today. Now, always have a clean face cloth on hand. Turn my client's head to the side, a little less, there you go, just so everyone can see. And I'm going to give a little warning. Hey, I'm gonna put some foam cleanser on you now, don't be startled. And always using a nice, gentle cleansing brush to get all around the lid, the under eye area, so the pads stick. Guys, if you're someone who finds the pads will not stick, it's likely that you're not cleansing underneath the eye where the pads go, because oils, it's not gonna stick to that. And also you wanna get in between every single one of those natural lashes to give a nice deep cleanse. That's why you need a fine bristled brush. Very, very important. So I'm gonna just give a rinse, and then I'm actually gonna give another cleanse. I always do a double cleanse for clients who have showed up to the appointment with makeup on because you wanna get all that off. So coming in with water. Feels okay? Do you like the cleanse? Some people, I find either they love it or hate the cleansing part. Like it's either like a spa treatment or they're like, I do it because I have to. Where are you at with that?
It's relaxing.
Nice, that's perfect. Okay, coming in with some more cleanser. And then arguably, the rinse is equally as important as the cleanse. And the reason why is because the cleanser's job is to loosen up everything, but the rinse is what's going to move it all away. So we really want to do a thorough rinse, because if you have product left on the lash line, the cleanser even, then that could interfere with good retention as well. So I think we're at, I know I said 4 weeks, but I think we're getting pretty close to 5 maybe. It's been a pretty long time, and her lashes are lasting pretty well, which is great. At 3 weeks, we're ideally having about 50% retention. And retention, I think a lot of people get kind of thrown off with this, but retention doesn't mean that 50% of the natural lashes are going to have extensions on it, unless you have legitimately covered 100% of the natural lashes. So you should have 50% of whatever lashes you put on left on the client. So especially when you're new in the beginning, don't expect amazing retention. It's really not possible because you'll likely be slower and you likely won't be covering all the natural lashes. But your lash line's looking nice and healthy. Do you cleanse every day?
Yes.
Perfect. Awesome. And you should always be telling your clients too, cleanse your lashes nightly, every single night. And you should be sharing that information with them as well, that it's okay if a lash comes off. That doesn't mean that your cleansing is bad. It just means that that lash was ready to shed, just as long as you're being gentle, of course. If it's hurting and pulling when you're rinsing, then that's a different story, because that likely means that you're being a little too aggressive. But if a lash just comes off and you can't even feel it, totally fine. So I'm using my non-toxic Sharpie, and what I'm doing is I'm just marking where the arch of the brow is. So I'm just gonna put 2 little dots. Don't worry, the Sharpie will come off really easily with foam cleanser and a micro swab applicator. Okay, so I get my client to look straight ahead. And I'm gonna mark where I want my emphasis, AKA my longest length section to be. So about here. So we're doing a swirl mapping that looks really good on my client. So I have my markings on the lid, and that helps me for when the client closes their eyes. The reason why is because when the eyes are closed, it's so hard to see the shape of the eye and where you want your certain sections to be. So I'm using Lost Artistry's standard gel pads. I swear by these gel pads because they have the perfect amount of stick. So we use the iPad isolation technique a lot around here, and I have yet to find another iPad that sticks but without leaving residue and without pulling on the lashes. So you really want that perfect in between. It's so important. Same with making sure that the iPads don't slip underneath. Cleansing is really important, but also having the right stickiness on your iPad is equally as important. So I'm gonna get you to close your eyes. I like to apply the iPads with the eyes closed, but you can do it with the eyes open if you want. Totally up to you and your preference. I'm gonna apply a little bit of tape here too. So if you find that the iPads kind of shift up into the client's eye when you're working, just place it a little further down and then use your micro pore tape to cover the remaining lashes. You need all the lashes covered all the way to where the lashes meet the water line, because otherwise you're not going to be able to get close enough to the base of the natural lash when you're placing your extensions. So this is ideal, but now, if it's feeling a little uncomfortable for your client, it can make their eyes water and it can also give them redness around their eyes. So just ask your client, 𝑻𝒊𝒎𝒆, does it feel weird?
No.
Is it poking on the corner?
No, it's good.
Okay, I'm still gonna just take precaution and I'm just gonna move it down a touch, just the smallest amount. Okay, so now that we have our eye pads placed, I'm gonna use these markings and I'm going to begin to build the shape of my mouth. So I know I'm using 16 millimeters in the section. We like to put multiple lengths in each section because that's gonna help me create lots of wispiness and texture. But I don't want subtle wispiness, I want pretty dramatic wispiness. So I'm gonna, in my 16 millimeter section, I'm going to blend multiple lengths, but I'm gonna skip the in-between lengths. So in my 16 millimeter section, it's gonna go 16, and then my next length is going to be 14, and then my next length is going to be 12. Now, you might be wondering, is 16 millimeter gonna be on the top layer, 14 on the middle, and 12 on the bottom? No, I just couldn't fit it in my mapping the way that I wanted. Across all layers, we're gonna have these length variations. So I'm doing a squirrel eye mapping, so that means then this section here is going to jump down to 15, 13, 11, and so on. Actually, and 15, 13, and 11. And then next thing I wanna do when mapping is decide, okay, I already decided my shortest length in here is gonna be a 9 millimeter, right? So I'm gonna put my 9, 11, 12, that was really bad writing, but that's okay. And then I know, so I need to break this section into equal parts to get from 12 to 16. So I just need 4 parts. 1, 2, 3, and 4. And that is how you do your mapping. So 15, 14, 13, 12, and then just fill in the blanks from there. So I'm gonna be also using Curls CC for a little bit of a lift because my client does have slightly downturned natural lashes. And then I'm gonna be blending C Curl just to add a little bit of texture. So C and CC Curl are gonna be used. Diameter is a mix of 0.05 and 0.07, again, in the matte collection. Okay, so next up, priming. When you prime, you have 2 options. You have the option of using Bond-Aid, which is an actual primer, or Super Bonder. Why would you choose one or the other? So Bond-Aid is for those people who have oily skin or thick natural lashes. They're gonna need a little extra opening of the cuticle, which is gonna help you with retention and proper connection. Otherwise, if a client has already dry natural lashes, don't skip the primer altogether. Use Super Bonder. So it opens, but in a more gentle way, and it's still gonna give you that really good connection that you're looking for. So I love Super Bonder for 𝑻𝒊𝒎𝒆. She doesn't have a hard natural lash to penetrate into when it comes to the glue, because think about it, guys. If we place our extension and it sits just flat on the lash shaft, that's fine. But if we can get the glue to penetrate into the natural lash, it's gonna hold way better. So I never skip this step. I know I see on forums and stuff all the time saying, I don't prime, and that's fair and fine, especially if you're using a harsh product. Like for example, I've tried really intense formulas of primers and I have absolutely hated them too. That's actually why we developed ours. Our primer smells delightful, and the reason why it can smell that way instead of like gasoline or something really harsh. If it smells like that, stay away from it because it is too drying for the natural lashes. But ours, we've toned it down a lot. So it actually smells fruity, and that's what's helping the primer work well, but not to really dry out the natural lashes. So it's like a toned down primer, if that makes sense. So now, don't waste a lot of your product on the tips of the natural lashes. Instead, get close to the base. Why? Because that's where you're making connection. You wanna make your connection about 0.5 millimeters from the skin, that's ideal. And make sure that the base of those natural lashes aren't hiding beneath the eyelid, because that can kind of throw it off and make it look like you're placing really close to the base of the natural lashes, but then later it's like, what? Why do I have a rooted effect? What's going on here? And all it takes is for you just to say, hey, tilt your chin back so I can see better. Don't be afraid to ask your clients to move their head. They never mind. And primer is not meant to touch the skin, so just dry it. I'm using our glue braidor. I'll pull it in on the side here so you can see it from our website, but it's not only a fan, it also shakes your glue. So it's a 2-in-1. Has power too, which is great. So you're not standing here like blowing for ages. I have my tiles set up, and now it's time for me to get my tweezers ready. So I've already disinfected my tweezers after my last client, but just to make sure that they are definitely as clean as humanly possible. So I take my glue gun, which is an alcohol-based product. Every lash artist should have this, by the way. It's a game changer, especially when you have sticky situations, no pun intended, where you get glue on your tweezers and you're in the middle of a service and you just don't know what to do with yourself when the lashes won't come off of the tweezer, they just stick to it. So having this on hand is really good, but it's also great for just giving a nice, quick disinfection right before the service. Tweezer-wise, I'm using Sunset Ultra. I like it because it has the perfect curvature. It's like really ergonomic. And I'm also working with our Sweet Spot tweezer. This is a really good tweezer for those who are pretty advanced at fanning. For those of you who are new to fanning, I don't recommend it. The reason why is because it's really thin. So see here how the tip is just so fine. When you're new, you kind of want a tweezer that looks like this. So this is our L-curved gold member. We also have other tweezers such as this one, which is our slim boot. I wouldn't go any thinner than this when you're first starting to fan, and the reason why is because this type of tweezer that's thicker is going to correct imperfections in your technique. So it'll really help you when you're fanning, so you won't find it so frustrating. But a really thin tweezer like this, your technique has to be perfect, or the lashes will kind of fall out of place and it'll be a little more stressful. And now I just use alcohol on my tweezer, so I'm taking my glue wipes and just getting rid of any of that product. Because if that goes in my client's eye, it's gonna feel horrendous. Nice. Guys, I'm basically ready. Now I just need my glue. So I'm using Quickie Adhesive. I like this one. It's a 1-second cure time glue. I particularly like it when doing handmade volume like I am doing today, because when you're doing handmade volume, you really want your fan to grip pretty fast. Now, when you're new, I would suggest maybe a 2 to 3 second cure time glue, but if you're pretty seasoned, 1 second or 0.5 second is good. I'm more of a 1 second girl because I really find I get the best retention with it, and it also gives me enough time to perfect things like direction. So first things first, let me just remove some of these grown out lashes, like this one. If it's more than about 2 millimeters from the skin, likely it's going, especially for spikes, because they're really creating the shape of your set. See how much natural lash has grown out here? handmade volume sometimes, I find that the base is so connected that they just don't ever want to come off with like the banana peel method or any of the easier removal methods. So you kind of have to peel one lash off at a time, which isn't the greatest. It's kind of time consuming, but you gotta do what you gotta do. Also, I definitely should say that I'm just gonna remove the obvious grown out lashes. I'm gonna leave the rest, and then when I'm using my inspection mirror throughout the set, if I notice that a lash is looking wonky and kind of throwing off the design, then I will remove it. So I'm going in first on the top layer only, and I'm gonna place one of each longest length identified in my mapping in each section. That's my #1 goal. Moving eye to eye as I work. Very important because that's how we're gonna create symmetry. So you put the same length lash in the same spot on the opposite eye. My directional pattern is up, meaning all extensions are pointing up toward the eyebrow, not out toward the ear. If I wanted more of a cat eye or sunset shape, I would be directing in a different pattern, but we're looking for upward direction for the set. And my fans, really important that they are fully closed for these spiked lashes. And if I could give you one quick piece of advice on how to get the longest lasting hold, it would be to place your extensions while you look from the side. The reason why is because when we place from the top, it's almost like an optical illusion where it looks always like the extensions are placed perfectly. But then when you look from the side, you'll be able to see if the base is lifted at all. This is especially important when you work with new lash curls. For example, if you're used to working with, say, C or D curl, and then you get like an L curl or a DD curl or a CC curl, it's gonna take a different technique and like flick of the wrist, basically, to place that new curl. So make sure that you're looking from the side to see how you have to tilt your tweezer in order to make proper connection. So let's quickly zoom in and I'll show you how I create my wet lash fans. First thing you want to do is take 4-play product, use a micro swab applicator and dip it into the 4-play product bottle. Then brush the 4-play along the tip of the lash extensions. This is going to keep the tips together. So 4-play is not like using water or super bonder or anything else. It is a very unique product in that it has a very gentle, so it's not sticky, but it is still a liquid polymer, meaning it's kind of like a glue. So it's going to keep the tips together even between services, which is so great because you want those fans to stay closed in order for your client's lash set to look good when they come back for a fill. And when I grip from the tray, I grip as close to the tip of the lashes as I can. That's gonna keep the tips as closed as possible. And you really should know how to do wet lash fans because it seems like that's the direction the industry's going, and I'm not certain it's coming back from there. It seems like it's gonna be sticking around for a while, the trend, the wet lash trend. Actually, have you guys created wet lashes? Comment below. Do you often use wet lashes? Do you think the trend is here to stay? I'd love to hear from you. Also, how long have you guys been lashing? I'd love to get to know each and every one of you guys. I've added one of all the longer spikes in my set, and now I'm going to add one of the second longest spikes to the same sections that I just placed the lash on. So now I'm going through, and in say my 16mm section, I'm just gonna place a 14mm. Then I'm gonna repeat that and place a 12. And then I'm gonna pull the lashes back, and I'm gonna do the same thing, but on the bottom layer only. Now this is where layering comes into play. On only the bottom layer, I'm gonna use these short lengths because it's gonna give me density.